Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. If you're new, my name is Bobby. Guys, today we're going to react to Nature Tells Us That Allah Exists by, yet again, Rational Believer. I personally do not need to be swayed either way that nature shows us that God exists. I personally do believe that we can see the thumbprint of God within nature. After all, it is God's creation, and in every creation we can see an aspect of the Creator. However, if we look into Christianity, Christians say that nature is fallen and therefore we cannot learn from nature. There are atrocities happening in nature, and that only shows us our fallenness and not the beauty of God. Therefore, I'm very curious to watch today's video and see an Islamic perspective on nature and how it shows us that Allah exists. Let's have a look. Man, I have to update my channel. I need a logo animation like that. Or like that. The editing is always on point. I would like to know what that means. The divine functions.
From the galactic bodies to the tiny creatures, from the strongest to the weakest, everything in the nature follows some specified functions with precise measurements.
Yep.
It's because they're destined to do so. Let's for a moment think about the work of engineers or architects. They use functions and measurements to provide some properly functioning products with aesthetic appearance. In order to give you an example, let's think of a very simple function to draw a pattern in a circle, like 2x. So we start with a circle that has 10 equidistant points. Then we assign numbers to every single point. And we want to join every point with the help of given function by just replacing the x values with the number of each point. We start with the 0. 2 times 0 equals 0, so it's the same thing. Now 2 times 1 equals 2, so we connect the 1 to the 2. Then 2 times 2 equals 4, and we connect that point to the point number 4. So we continue until we get this pattern. At the beginning we started with 10 points, but if we increase the number of points, then we'll get more and more precise result with 𝗖cie𝗽𝗽𝘆𝗿𝗵𝘁
It's quite fascinating to me because it is exactly those patterns that you see on psychedelic experiences. I talked about this before on my channel. If you're new, you probably don't know about this. But back in the day, I experimented with different psychoactive substances, be it mushrooms, ayahuasca, or LSD even. And during those experiences, everyday reality starts breaking down and you see the fabric behind it. Once that happens, you really start to see patterns just like this. Very, very interesting.
Change the function itself, we'll get many different patterns.
Yeah.
But let me ask you something. Have you seen something in the nature that follows the same function? Well,
probably
the answer
everything.
is yes. If you observe the reflection of light in a circular object, like a coffee cup, then you can see the same pattern. That means the photons of light are following the same function by hitting one edge of the cup and reflecting to the other edge at a calculated angle. Not only the reflection of light in a circular shape, rather everything else in the nature follows some specified rules and functions.
That's exactly what I thought, man. Because as I said, during my psychedelic experiences, I would see that everything that is happening on the smallest level is happening on the biggest level as well. I can quote the Bible for this: as above, so below. And with that, you can truly see those reoccurring patterns. You can look into a microscope, you would probably see something very, very similar to this. Or if you geometrically conduct it yourself, you will see those patterns again. Those patterns are embedded in the fabric of the universe.
Precision. To give you an example of the precision of those functions, let's consider the number pi. Pi is an irrational number which has infinite decimal places.
Yeah.
It means if you have a computer at the size of universe, then the storage capacity of that computer would not be enough to store the exact value of pi, unless you round it. So where did the number pi come from? It's actually the ratio of circumference of any circle to its diameter. It means a circle can always be calculated with the number pi if we have one of its variables. Now, let's consider you have two sliding blocks and a wall, and we suppose that there is no energy loss and the surface has no friction.
Okay.
The first block starts by coming in at some velocity from the right, while the second one starts stationary. The simplest case is when both blocks have the same mass.
Sure.
The first block hits the second, transferring all of its momentum. Then the second one bounces off the wall, then transfers all of its momentum back to the first, which then sails off towards the infinity. 3 total clacks. What about if the first block has 100 times the mass of the second one? It's not entirely obvious how to predict the dynamics here, but to have a little bit understanding, let's just watch what happens. That second one will be bouncing back and forth between the wall and the first block with 100 times its mass, slowly and discretely redirecting the first block's momentum to point in the opposite direction. In total, there will be 31 collisions before each block is sliding off to the infinity, never to be touched again. Now, what if the first block will be 10,000 times the mass of the second one? In that case, there would be quite a few more clacks, all happening very rapidly at one point, adding up all into 313 collisions. Well, actually, hang on. Wait for it.
For me, it's just absolutely mind-blowing to watch this.
314
and then to take the atheistic perspective to say there is no creator.
clacks.
How?
If it was 1,000,000 times the mass of the second one, then again, with all our idealistic condition, almost all clacks happen in one big burst, this time resulting in 3,141 total collisions. Perhaps you have seen what's happening here. Yes, every time the number of collisions compute pi. It means the mechanism of collision in our assumed case was following a function that computes pi. Of course, such thing is maybe not possible in real physics because there are some other forces acting in the universe, but that's what happens when you calculate the number of collisions between two bodies in a condition where there is no other force like gravity acting on the bodies. Or just simulate this example in a physics simulation software, and you get the amazing result.
Especially if you look into physics, if you look into biology, if you look into mathematics, I really don't understand how you can come to the conclusion and say everything is just random.
It's because pi calculates the circles.
I don't get it.
And circles are everywhere in the nature. Because every time you have a curved thing and a straight thing, in order for them to interact, there's some pi going on. Nature doesn't like always going in a straight line because sometimes things interact. If you throw a ball in the air, it's not going to go in a straight line. It's going to go in a curve. And that means lots of things in the nature follows pi. A further example is the astonishing collection of numbers, the Fibonacci series. These numbers can be...
The Fibonacci series is very prominent in the New Age movement as well, and the New Age movement, yet again, is infused heavily with psychedelics and mind-altering substances. I have to repeat myself one more time. It is because people, during their spiritual psychedelic experiences, encounter exactly those sequences. For example, the Fibonacci spirals.
Appreciated in many
or the
different
tree
ways.
of life.
From the standpoint of calculation, they are as easy to understand as 1 + 1, which is 2. Then 1 + 2 is 3. And then 2 + 3 is 5. 3 + 5 is 8, and so on. This series of numbers was introduced by Leonardo of Pisa. In terms of application, Fibonacci numbers appear in nature surprisingly often. The number of petals in a flower is typically a Fibonacci number. Or the number of spirals on a sunflower or pineapple tends to be Fibonacci number as well. In fact, there are many more applications of Fibonacci numbers. One of the most amazing characteristics of this series is the beautiful pattern that appears in them. For example, let's consider the squares of the Fibonacci numbers.
pattern is never changing.
Well, you may not expect something special by adding the squares of those numbers, but let's see what the outcome is. If you add 0 + 1, you'll get 1. By adding 1 + 1, you'll get 2, and then 1 + 4, you'll get 5, 4 + 9, 13, and so on. In this pattern, you are always escaping one number in the series. But what happens by cumulative adding of the squares of this series? Here is the result. 0 + 1 + 1 + 4 is 6. Add 9 to that, you'll get 15. At 25 you'll get 40, and then at 64 you'll get 104. The results are not Fibonacci numbers, but surprisingly the Fibonacci numbers are hidden inside these numbers. Do you see them?
No, I don't.
Have a closer look. Yes, 6 is 2 times 3, 15 is 3 times 5,
That's too fast for
40
me.
is 5 times 8, 104 is 8 times 13, and so on. But the most beautiful characteristics of this series is that it leads us to an important number called golden ratio. If you every time divide the greater number with its neighboring smaller number, then you will get the golden ratio. This ratio is also called divine.
Yeah, as I said in the beginning, I do not need to be swayed either way, because ultimately it is self-evident that there is a creator at work here.
Be found in numerous
How can you not
events
see it?
in the nature.
We came from monkeys. Monkeys! Unbelievable, man. It's such an ignorance and arrogance. All coincidence, all random. Yes. God creates perfectly, man. I'm familiar with this. Of course, man, there's a beautiful symmetry in all of it. It's just flawless design. Ultimately, watching this, I believe that atheism is the biggest blasphemy you can commit. Ultimately, you're surrounded by so much beauty, so much meaning, so much proof, so much evidence, and you're still going to discard all of it and say that it's all random. No wonder atheists are described as the worst of all creatures. Honestly, it's unbelievable. How can you not see the beauty in this? It's just perfection. Every molecule, every atom has its place. Every seed in that sunflower. Why is it even aesthetically pleasing to you as an atheist? Why do you see this beauty? You're not going to reflect upon it. What is beauty? Why do you perceive it? Really, it's an honest question. How can you not see the meaning then? If you as the observer can see beauty in nature, how is there no meaning for you? I don't get it. But anyways, I'm babbling. Let me rewind a bit. Sorry guys, let me read this out. Everything follows the functions that are set for them as a command. Absolutely, of course. You can follow it. You see when the sun rises, when it sets. And there is not a thing but glorifies Allah by His praise, but you understand not their glorification. That's a perfect quote. Sums up basically everything I tried to say. It's unbelievable. This video is a psychedelic trip, man.
These were only a few examples of the perfect order that's being followed by the nature. The reason we have shown all of these to you was to once again remind you that everything in the nature is calculated with precise measurements, and that everything in the existence follows the functions that are set for them. Any rational mind can easily understand that none of these laws and regulations comes out of coincidence. Rather, such a complex universe with all its laws and functions needs a wise designer who created everything with perfect precision and set these rules to govern the entire existence.
الذي له ملك السماوات والأرض ولم يتخذ ولدا ولم يكن له شريك في الملك وخلق كل شيء فقدره تقديرا.
Alright guys, and this must have been the quietest I have ever been whilst watching a YouTube video. Usually I interrupted quite often, however this video was so beautifully done it actually put goosebumps on my body, no joke here. So therefore I didn't want to interrupt it too often. Everything that has been displayed should make people think, but ultimately I really believe that you're either guided or you're not. You either have the eyes to see or you simply don't. People can spend time in nature and observe the wonders, the miracles of this life by themselves, and they still won't see a creator, they still won't see a thumbprint of God within their environment. I don't believe that we can sway anybody one way or the other. Ultimately, it is God that opens their eyes or closes them forever. That being said, I'm very familiar with those geometrical patterns, not only due to my psychedelic experiences, but moreover there has been research done on so-called sacred geometry. Sacred geometry is exactly that geometry of the universe that holds everything together. It is definitely worth checking out, no matter if you're Muslim, Christian, Jew, atheist or whatnot. Have a look. Sacred geometry is the science of those geometric patterns that hold the universe together. Absolutely beautiful stuff. Anyways guys, this is it for today. If you liked the video, leave me a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed already, guys, please do so, and please let me know in the comment section below what kind of video you want me to react to next. On top of that guys, if you want to support this channel, all the links are in the description box. Moreover, I changed my tiers on Patreon. So now you have VIP tiers additional to the basic tiers where you get exclusive content. With the VIP tiers, you will get access to my Telegram chat. No, not the group, but my personal Telegram number where you can contact me 24/7 via chat. And on top of that, once per week, we're gonna schedule a phone call. If you want coaching on nutrition, training, or whatever the case may be, this tier is for you. Alright guys, but this is it for today's video. As always, may God bless you all. Much love and peace.